With this photograph, we will take a look at how we can clean up and improve the background. And to do that, we'll be creating 4 different layers, starting off with a layer where we'll do a little bit of cloning and then move from there. All right, well, this is the image as it appeared straight out of the camera. And I notice on the background, we have a little bit of the chair there and the shadow on the wall. I want to get rid of those items. How can we do that? Well, one technique that you can use is to create a new layer, and I'll go ahead and call this new layer cloning. And here we'll use the clone stamp tool to get rid of this chair over here. Go ahead and press the S key or just click on the clone stamp tool. And with the clone stamp tool, we want to choose a brush without any hardness and a pretty big brush, maybe a little bit bigger there. For the opacity, we'll leave this at 100. Aligned is turned on, and sample all layers. Now, this is a retouching technique that can help you in so many different scenarios. Basically, what you do is if you have good content somewhere else, Option or Alt, click that, and then move down and have the good content cover up the bad content. And so here again, we're just going to Option Alt click, and we're just painting that down and bringing down good content on top of bad content. And this way, we create this nice little cover up of this problem that was there. On the right side, that worked. But on the left side, with this shadow, will clone stamp work? Not at all. So when we have a little bit more of a complicated area or we just don't have anything to sample from, we can use a technique that we've seen before where we create a new layer. We'll call the layer color. We press the B key to select our brush tool or just click on it. With the brush tool, we will position the cursor over the image. Then do you remember the shortcut to sample or select a color? You press and hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt on Windows, and click. Next, I need a larger brush, so I'll tap the right bracket key to make my brush nice and big here. Now, in regards to the opacity, I want to bring this down below 50%. Why? Well, here what I can do is just start to paint this in, and you can see how I'm slowly kind of nudging this away. Sometimes once you start to paint it over a background or clean it up, you might want to have, a little bit of shadow there. So in this way, I can minimize this. I can also apply this color adjustment over on the other side too. It might be nice to get rid of that shadow that we had there on the far right. And this is actually a real world scenario where I had done this work and I created the new color in the background. I also need to clean up this area here. I need to add a little color where it's white there. So I'll drop my opacity down even lower, and then I'll get back to the story in a second. But I just noticed that I need to work on that little area right there. Also maybe a little bit over here. So anyway, back to the story. I worked on the image like we've done here. We've seen this technique. And the client said, okay, great. We like that you cleaned it up. You reduced and minimized it. Feels more like an intentional portrait. Yet we feel like the background's a little bit drab. We want you to brighten that up. Okay, no big deal. So before we do the brightening, let's first create a curves adjustment, maybe just to add a little bit of contrast here. So we create our contrast adjustment, a small S curve, and say, okay, there's that. Now we want to really brighten that up. We'll create one more adjustment, this time a curves adjustment. And I want to double click the tab for adjustments and histogram so we can see what we have. Remember I said it was going to be 4 layers. First we did some cloning, then some hand painting, one adjustment just for the heck of it to make the image just snap just a little bit. And then this final adjustment, what we'll do is if you double click the icon for the curve, we're just going to click and drag this up. And I'm really paying attention to the background over here. If it's still too dark in areas, click on the endpoint right there and bring that up as well. Of course, we washed out too much of the image. The background's good, but the subject's horrible. What can we do? What you can do is click on the tab in the Properties panel for the mask. And on this, what we have here is we have the ability to work on our mask, and we have the ability to invert that. So I'm clicking on my mask and I click on invert. The mask that was white is now black. That's hiding or concealing the entire adjustment. So that's what invert does. It flip-flops that. So now that this is black, as you can imagine, we can then grab our brush and we can paint with white here. So we have white, and we can paint with a really nice and big brush. And how big? Let's go pretty big. And we can paint with a low opacity, sure. And here what I want to do is just start to paint in this brightening effect in this area. And I can paint it in at different intensity in different areas. So the more I paint, the brighter it will become. So you can see how I'm just going around. Might zoom out as well. There might be some other areas in the image that could benefit from a little bit of brightening too, perhaps dress down here just a little bit and a little bit over there. Actually, I don't know if that's a dress. Maybe it's just a shirt. I can't remember, but you can see how we're brightening that up. And essentially what we have now is a final adjustment which built upon the rest of them. It changed the overall density of the image. And if we zoom in, I think it just has a little bit of a nicer feel about it. So in this case, the client was right. Let me show you the before and after with these last two adjustments. There was before, and then our contrast, and then there was the one where we brightened all of that up. Now, really, this wouldn't have worked had we not taken those initial steps. This just looks a little bit strange. But by combining these all together, a little bit of cleanup work, then some hand painting, a tonal adjustment, and then finishing this one off with a hand-painted mask in order to brighten up that background area which we had worked on, and we have really nice and clean and professional level results.